Good evening, Steelers fans. Well, maybe not a good evening for Steelers fans, but we appreciate you all joining us for the Steelers Now Steelers post-game show. Steelers fall to the Texans 30-6. It was for a while they were pretty close. It wasn't quite like the past playoff matchups, but unfortunately, it ended the way the past playoff matchups have ended. So, definitely a disappointing result. And with that, the Steelers season's over. And Mr. Saunders, kind of take us through your thoughts on as the game progressed, and what do you feel like the turning point was that Texans just pretty much began to pull away?
Yeah, I mean, I thought very differently than other playoff games the Steelers have been in. This started with the kind of pace you felt like they could win. It never felt like, until the Steelers helped them with their offense, giving them points, that the Houston offense was really in danger of breaking away or getting disconnected. Steelers offense just had a really bad game. It really, I think, showed the offensive line just got its butt kicked. I mean, I think there's not really a better way to say that. I still think that's a good young group that they want to build around, but this was an offensive L that is going to hang around their necks for the offseason because they got their butts kicked. I did not think, once again, Rodgers was particularly good under pressure, and he was under pressure a lot. That's been a pretty consistent theme all season, is that when the Steelers have been able to protect him, he's been pretty good, and when they haven't, he hasn't been. So not terribly surprised by that. I did think the Steelers would struggle to move the ball on offense. I just didn't think it would be that big of a struggle. They also just had a bunch of unforced errors, couple of drops, couple of plays that didn't go their way. This is a game that, right up until the strip sack touchdown, I kind of felt like the Steelers had them where they wanted them. They were playing their game, even if it wasn't pretty. They had kind of dragged Houston down to the mud with them, and they were playing the kind of game that the Steelers feel like they usually find a way to win. And then, the score gets out of hand at the end because you're just throwing and going for it and stuff like that. But I mean, this was a tight game. I felt like this was a game script the Steelers could win. And it just felt like at the end of the day, for me, on both sides of the ball, really, they lost the line of scrimmage. But I feel like it was more impactful on offense. Like the defense, I mean, they give 10 points to what? Early fourth quarter? Like middle of the fourth quarter? It's just, they did not play perfectly on defense. Certainly they could have been better against the run. This is not a dynamic rushing offense this year, and they probably gave up too much. But I have a real hard time pointing the fingers at the defense. When the offense was literally outscored by the points that it gave Houston's defense on turnovers directly. I mean, Houston defense outscored the Pittsburgh offense 13-6. That's pretty much the story of the game.
Yeah, and you look at the stats and the box score. The Texans outgained the Steelers 408 to 175 yards, and the third down efficiency was good by the Texans, but the Steelers forced 3 turnovers, 2 in their own territory, and gave the offense a chance. And really, it's been kind of the opposite the past 6 other losses. You felt like this defense just got too far behind because of errors by the offense, and they got themselves in a hole they couldn't climb out. This one, if you would have had this kind of performance by the defense, I feel like the past at least 2 playoff games, they probably would have been able to do enough to win. But
I mean, that's C.J. Stroud over there, not Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen also. I mean, that's part of it. That's part of the reason there was optimism for this game. Hit my bold prediction. Felt good about that one. Not so much about the rest of the way the game played out. But I thought the defense played well enough to win, period. It wasn't perfect. There's certainly stuff that they could do better, but they gave the offense opportunity after opportunity, and they just couldn't do anything with it. I felt like the drop by DK Metcalf was a big turning point in this game. They were starting to maybe get a little bit of momentum. Aaron Rodgers disagreed with that after the game, but I felt like they were starting to get a little bit of momentum, and then they never really got it back. I didn't think Arthur Smith was very good. I feel like every time we've said that one of he and Aaron Rodgers has had a bad game, the other one has. There was just so many play calls in this game that I was like, what was even the hope of that? And they're just not good enough to spot teams' plays, and they did that a bunch tonight. Um, the short passing not working, I felt like was obvious all week. You look at how well these guys run to the ball and tackle. Uh, I felt like they should have known that wasn't going to work. They did try to go downfield a little bit more, and then they just couldn't protect it. I, and that's just a butt kicking from that Houston defense. But yeah, I think Arthur Smith's got to wear some of that as well.
Definitely. I mean, 2 of 14 on third down, and a lot of those were, I think the average was like 8 or 9 yards to go, maybe more
10,
than that.
11, 9, 8, 7, 10, 14. It was they weren't doing anything on first and second down to put themselves in position on third down. And that pass rush, you just make it better when you get into those situations. You're not helping yourself deal with the problem that is Anderson and Hunter. I feel like that's what happened late in the game as well. They just got one-dimensional because of the score and the time, and those guys took the game over.
Yeah, and I will say the interior defensive line of Houston also got after it. I mean, there were multiple times Sayamali was just put on his rear, and if your stable veteran is getting his butt kicked like that, that's just not a good thing. Post game wise, I'm willing to bet everyone's asking the same question: what's going to happen with Tomlin? Did he give any indication on anything potentially being there, or was it pretty much business as usual?
Yeah, I mean, Mike kind of said, I'm not in a big picture mindset right now, sort of punted on the question. Aaron did the same thing. I don't expect that Aaron will make a decision anytime soon, nor does he need to. Obviously, the time frame with coaches is a lot more pressing. Um, the Steelers need to know if Mike Tomlin's going to be their coach next week. Middle of this week, honestly, like you can't wait too long to make that kind of decision. I didn't get the vibe that anything was different from Tomlin. I took a video of him and put it on Twitter of him coming off the field the last time, just because I wondered, I remember covering the last game for Marquise Pouncey. I remember covering the last game. And that at that point, they hadn't really announced anything that it was going to be it for Pounce. But you could kind of tell by the way he left the field that day that was something he was thinking about. And I tried to keep an eye on Mike coming off the field. It didn't look like it was any different than any other time. I would be pretty surprised if he's not the head coach going forward, but things have happened, and we'll see what does shake loose from that. In terms of other things from the post-game press conference, I was there talking to Aaron and TJ, and relatively little. Aaron was asked about why they didn't throw the ball to Pat Freiermuth more, and he said, I don't have a good answer for that, which I felt like is very telling. I mean, if the quarterback doesn't have a good answer for it, I don't think Pat Freiermuth sucks, which would be one of the answers that the quarterback would have but not want to give. The other is the plays aren't getting called for him, right? I mean, that's really all there is. That's the only other option. And so, that's a problem that they probably need to figure out. And then defensively, TJ was asked if there's something that needs to change or something they need to do differently to find some success in the playoffs. And he said, man, don't ask me. I haven't had the answer to that for years. I think pertinent questions, but as to be expected, not a lot of big picture answers. DK Metcalf and talking to Brendan Howe did sort of take ownership for that drop. Calvin Austin as well talked about the missed opportunities on big plays. Had that one where it kind of went in and out of his hands, and he had an opportunity to make a diving catch and wasn't able to. And then talked to some of the defensive guys, Cam Hayward as well, was there for the end of that conversation. But, yeah, I mean, the locker room as to be expected after a season-ending loss, and we'll get more from these guys as we go forward later in the week.
Absolutely. Now, will there be a Tomlin Tuesday, or do you think that'll get pushed to Wednesday?
My guess is we'll talk to Mike Wednesday. I can't imagine it'll be tomorrow, but stranger things have happened. I don't know.
No, certainly. And no, it's definitely been especially with how high the highs were against the Ravens and how that game turned out, then just to have this happen, it definitely has been a roller coaster of a year. So definitely a lot of questions to ask. I guess if you were in the shoes of the general manager, what are some changes you think that could be on the horizon?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a lot will probably well, a whole off season to talk about it, but I mean, I don't know how you can feel real confident running it back with all the same guys. On the other hand, I don't know where the places are that there are easy upgrades to be found. It would not surprise me if that's the end for Terrell Austin. I don't think that he was the reason they lost this game by any stretch, but I believe his contract's up. He's getting older. I think on the whole, this defense underperformed this year. And while it's been very good over his 10 years defensive coordinator, it's also been extraordinarily high paid. And I don't know that the problems are the plays being called, but I see that as a move that could be made and in my mind feels somewhat likely. Arthur Smith, I mean, I know he's getting head coaching opportunities. I know the Titans are a pretty good fit for him in terms of his history with that organization. We'll see where that plays out. I can't see him not being back if he's not taking a head coaching job. And I'm really curious to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers because, I mean, I don't think he was very good in this game. And there's been a number of games this year where he wasn't. On the whole, he was pretty much what you'd expect. He's 42, going to be 43 next year. I don't think you can reasonably expect to do a whole heck of a lot better than what the Steelers did this year. I mean, they could have won this game, but like they weren't going to be favored going to New England. They weren't favored in this one either, but they weren't, they're going to be another big underdog going to New England. Like, I just don't think you're always going to be limited in your ceiling when you're talking about a quarterback of that age with his mobility, especially with an offensive line that they're still probably not done building. And that injury to Broderick Jones, I think, set that process back a little bit. But there are not very many good options out there. It is bleak in terms of what other direction they could go at quarterback. And so I think more than anything else, that has me thinking that he could be back. I just don't know. Like, this was very much a kick the can down the road season from the very beginning. From the free agent strategy to acquire comp picks, everything they did this year was about, hey, try to win this game while not doing anything to hurt next year and not making any crazy commitments to the future. They didn't win this game. And now, like, you kind of look at the offseason like, well, now what? I don't know that they're in a great position with the draft. They'll pick 21st. I guess they could maybe get Ty Simpson. That seems like that's probably the best they can do. And I don't think that's a bad plan, but man, like anytime it's January 11th or 13th and you're saying there's maybe one guy that could do what you need in the draft, that's not a very good position to be in as a team. And we'll see. This big picture plan that they've been under for Omar Khan and Andy Weidel has been sort of humming along fairly uninterrupted until now. I think there is the possibility of some cracks in that showing, though, this coming off season, and I don't really know what can be done about that. I do want to get to some of these questions. Oh, this is a good one. Father Abraham, just JPJ. Well, what a game by him. I actually feel like there's a bunch of guys who individually played well in this game. Joey was awesome. That's certainly one of them. I thought Cam Hayward was, again, very good. I thought the Steelers did a lot of nice things with their rotational guys on defense. YA and Jack Sawyer teamed up for a big play. I thought Herbig was impactful. Eccles was probably the one guy who didn't necessarily play a great game. Even Chuck Clark, who, I don't think has been well loved by the fan base recently. I thought he had a pretty good game as well, with big pass breakup, putting his body on the line. So, yeah, there were a bunch of individual good performances on defense. I thought Frazier was pretty good. The rest of the offensive line struggled. Nobody else on offense played well, really. I mean, Adam Thielen had one good catch. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, DK, he's got to come up with that catch. I mean, it's such a it's such an impactful point of the game.
No, definitely. Joey Porter Jr., I mean, he made Nico Collins almost non-existent.
I'm going back to Father Abraham, man. Jonnu Smith, 5 targets over the last 2 games, 1 yard. What an awful acquisition. It looked questionable at the time. You thought, okay, maybe they can figure out how to make it work. They couldn't. And not only that, they did a lot of things this offseason that didn't work. They thought Jalen Ramsey could still play outside corner. They thought Darius Slay could still play man-to-man. They thought Juan Thornhill was a starting safety. And they figured it out over the course of the season that they were wrong, and they came up with a better plan. And there was never an acknowledgement from this organization that the Jonnu Smith acquisition was a failure, that they were worse off every time he was in the game instead of Pat Freiermuth. And they continued right out until the very end, putting him out there in situations where he was clearly unable to succeed all year. I'm really mystified by that. It feels like a blind spot for Arthur Smith, considering their history with one another. It's not a good look. It was not. None of it was good. And you want to talk about things you can change in the offseason, that's a really easy one to make. Don't bring him back.
Yep, I think he has a cap hit of $12 million, and I think about $7 million of that is in savings if they let him go. But no, I mean, the only time he's had any kind of impact is one catch against New England, and then he took a toss for a touchdown against the Dolphins, and then that's it. And I think the tipping point was when he had that false start, and that was just, that's when I said get him off the field. Like, it's definitely been a very disappointing acquisition there, and that will be.
I want to go here to Miguel, talking about Mike Tomlin's option, which is due, I believe, the 1st of March. I do think this is an interesting talking point this offseason. While I don't think the Steelers are going to decide they don't want Mike Tomlin to coach next year, I do think it's within the realm of possibility that they're going to decide not to pick up that option. I'm not expecting it necessarily, but I at least think there's a potential for that to be this sort of decision point, conflict point. I don't know. That's definitely something to watch. We'll see where things play out. There could be a third way. It doesn't necessarily have to be just pick it up or don't pick it up. You can do some other things with the contract if you want. But I don't know. You don't really have lame duck head coaches in the NFL very often, almost ever. Certainly not guys with Tomlin's tenure. So that would be very, very rare if that happened. But so is a guy being with one team for 20 years and spending the second half of it not winning any playoff games. I mean, it's definitely a unique situation. We're talking about Tomlin and the organization, Look, I don't think this was some kind of coaching masterpiece. Certainly not. I don't think it was some kind of coaching malpractice either. I think the better team won. They had a chance. I don't think there's anything wrong with Mike Tomlin as a coach. Certainly, I think he can continue to have success at the NFL level. I don't think he's lost this room or his message has gone stale. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was reverent about him, saying it's a joke that there's even a consideration about whether Mike Tomlin should still be the head coach. The lack of playoff success is mystifying, not individually, but over the big picture. You would think that someone with his regular season success over that time frame would win more often in the playoffs. At the same time, I mean, there have been years where it did matter, certainly. That 17 team that started this stretch probably should have won the Super Bowl. This team, yeah. I mean, I think it would have made a lot people feel a lot better about what was going to happen anyway if they won this game, but I don't know that it was going to change much about the actual future of this team.
If they decide not to pick up his option, do you think it then puts them in a position where he may begin to start thinking about retirement, or do you think
I don't think he's anywhere near retirement, but I mean, if they don't pick up the option, I could see that setting up an exit after the 26th season. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's been kind of my
I would
question.
just to. I don't know if I've said this on here or on. People talk about him doing TV, and while I certainly think he has the skill set to be good at it, from everything I've ever heard him say, he does not have any interest in doing that. I would very much assume that maybe he takes a year off. Maybe I kind of doubt it, but as long as there's an opportunity for Mike Tomlin to be coaching, Mike Tomlin is going to be coaching, and it's hard to see how he would not have that opportunity. The other thing about the option is, if the Steelers are looking at a separation, they could pick up the option just so they can trade him. It doesn't really feel like a Steelers way about doing things, but like it is possible that they could decide they want to do that, where then they would have some say, not a lot, but some say in where he ends up and the ability to get some compensation for him if he leaves. I don't know. That doesn't feel like a Steelers kind of move to me, but it is technically an option regarding the contracts situation.
No, certainly. It'll definitely be. I think you said what, middle of this week or next week is going to be that time frame. I'm sure we'll hear something relatively quick, but no, definitely a lot of big questions on the horizon for sure.
Yeah, let's this is Jeremiah here. Thank you for joining us. Texans fan says, I've been listening to Steelers Sports Radio all week, and I still think the Texans defense is underrated. Don't ever compare my Texans defense to the Steelers. I think he's right. I mean, that was an all-time great performance from a defense in a postseason game that I can remember in a really long time. This is an era where defensive football is significantly disadvantaged by the rules. That's about as good as I've seen it done in a long time. I think the Steelers have a good young offensive line. They got their butts handed to them. The secondary is good. I actually felt like the Steelers got open a little bit more often than I thought they would, but they still were plenty of times that there was just nobody there. That is an extremely good defense. And I'm not sure that I think they can go beat New England too. They're quite good.
I think
Diego wants to know about this team will continue to be mediocre until they value the offensive side of the ball. They've never not valued the offensive side of the ball. Those things go in cycles. They've been earnestly trying to rebuild the offense from the line out. It is certainly time that they invest some draft capital in some skill position players, whether that's quarterback, wide receiver, both. I don't know. They got 12 draft picks. They almost have to trade up no matter what. Can't make 12 picks. Half of them won't make the team. I'm very curious as to where this goes from here, because I think the plan that has been pretty clear in vision for a while, starting to look a little bit shaky at this point. Silver, yeah. If a drop is enough to end a game, that's an indictment on a team building formula. Yeah, I mean, they just did not ever have enough about wide receiver. And again, this team was not built to be a Super Bowl contender. It was built to maybe try to win this game. And that's kind of what you get when that's what you're going for.
Miguel does kind of have a little, looks like some kind of silver lining, I guess you call it. He says 5 top 100 picks. You can do something meaningful with that. And it's unfortunate that this is becoming kind of the silver lining every year as well. What's the Steelers' draft capital? But no, I mean, 3 third-round picks, a 2nd-round pick, and a 1st-round pick. I think that's definitely something to, I guess, have that silver lining. But yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see what their approach is, especially if Rodgers does come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quarterback is the real fly in the ointment there to thinking that that's going to be something impactful. And look, if they keep drafting like they've been drafting, I think they'll be okay no matter what. They have 3 really good drafts under Omar and Andy. But you got to figure out quarterback eventually. And if it's not this offseason, if it's running back with Aaron Rodgers, that's just awfully uninspiring. I just feel like you're so limited. Like, I feel like this season was sort of unprecedented in they essentially admitted that this team did not have the upside to really win anything coming into the year. I mean, it was clear that they weren't even really trying that hard. And then and that was something they haven't really done before. Certainly not, in this modern era of the NFL. I mean, if they go run it back with Aaron, that's like taking it a step further. That especially if it's Aaron and Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin, like you better do an awful lot of talent acquisition if somehow you're going to convince people that that is going to end up different or better than it has, because I don't know if I see it. And look, maybe the answer is none of the above. Maybe they just finally decide to take a year where they do take a step back. I don't really think so. I don't think it's in their DNA. But I guess that's an option as well.
Not Mike says, remember when the Steelers almost traded for Christian Kirk? Wonder how they feel about him now. And I don't think. Well, let's see. Last season he broke his collarbone. They were about to trade.
Yeah, they were going to trade for him until he broke his collarbone last year with Jacksonville.
And it sounds like they were waiting on him to be waived from Jacksonville, but then the Texans went and traded for him. But no, Christian Kirk, he burned the Steelers tonight. That is for sure, especially in the slot against Brandon.
Hey, he's a free agent, so you know how much the Steelers like guys who perform well against them.
Oh yes, maybe another silver lining. Richard Hunt asked a good question here. Why didn't the Steelers run any tempo in the game?
Because they weren't getting first downs. You don't run tempo at 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, punt. They don't have any drives. You have drives to have tempo. I did think there was like one opportunity maybe where they could have. They hit, was it Thielen coming out of a first play of a drive, P and 10? I felt like they could have got up on the ball and tried to go there. They were backed up a couple times too. You don't usually want to do that then because you're trying to give your defense, when the defense is on the field for as long as they're on the field, like you don't want to go fast because you're trying to give those guys a break before they go back out there, and you're not getting first downs, so your drives are short as it is, and they just weren't having enough success to even get to think. Like usually when you're trying to go tempo, what you do is you go after your first down. Like you say, okay, we're going to run the play, and then when we get a first down, then we're going to go fastball, and then we're going to go tempo. And like they never even got to that point. They never got to the point where you introduced the tempo. Most of the time, they were just 3 and out, an awful lot in this game.
Yeah, it was definitely. I will agree. Once Thielen got that catch, I felt like, okay, let's get in some tempo. Let's see what happens here. But to your point, I mean, the defense was on the field a lot.
Ryan Cooks wants to know, why can't our pass catchers get open? It's because they're not any good. I don't know. Like what? Like they came into the season with a wide receiver 1 who is not like a top of the league wide receiver 1. Like he's good. He's not Justin Jefferson. He's good. And then Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, one of which is like probably best suited to be a wide receiver 4, and one of them has never done anything in his NFL career, and who knows what he may or may not be, but it certainly isn't what they needed him to be, and it's not his fault that he wasn't. And then you add some Adam Thielen and MVS in there, but I mean, they just do not have talent at the pass catching position, period. And then there's this, we talked about Jonnu Smith and this weird obsession with him over Pat Freiermuth that didn't go very well. And then you have a 42-year-old quarterback who doesn't have any mobility, can't extend a play. So if guys aren't open right away, the play's over, and they don't have I don't think their offensive line is bad. They didn't have a good night tonight, but like they're not so good that they're just going to give Rodgers this forever clean pocket to give guys time to get open. So yeah, they do not have the pieces to have a good passing game, pretty much. And I'll be honest, it's not easy to see how they get there for next season either. We talked about the quarterback position. Free agent class of wide receiver isn't much better. I mean, there at least you can feel like you can make an impact in the draft. It is a deep first round at the wide receiver position. I've got 5 guys sort of tentatively in that area for me right now. But yeah, I mean, they just lack ability there first and foremost.
Yeah, and the free agent class isn't much better either. I think they're the top guy right now, other than Pickens, is Alex Pierce from the Colts. And
yeah, and just going right back into this with Aaron, I mean, Rodgers held on the ball because there's nobody open. I mean, most of the game there's nobody open. You guys obviously, I have in terms of downfield passing, I have a lot better view than you guys. You guys see the lines better than I do. I see that better than you do. I can see where every receiver is on the field. There's nobody open most of the time. Still just could not separate against it. In fact, they got open a lot more than I thought they would. But there's just nobody open most of the time. And they didn't make combat catches either. You know, if you can't get open, I mean, like Chase Claypool never got open his entire career. George Pickens doesn't get open a lot. He just makes the catch when Juju doesn't get open. Like, there's been lots of guys here who have not separated but were still able to be effective receivers. They didn't make combat catches very well either. DK had, I mean, the one blatant drop, there was another one he could have caught that he didn't. Calvin had a couple that he had his hands on. Somebody else, maybe Frymouth, maybe MVS. But if you can't get open and you can't make combat catches, you're not going to have a passing offense.
Absolutely. No, yeah, it was definitely they've got a lot to do on the receiver end. I think that's definitely an indictment on the front office and Omar Khan.
Hey, well, Buck, come on now. Look, all right. I didn't have anything to do with this. Oh, maybe he means Arthur Smith. Okay. All right. Maybe. Listen, I take umbrage at that. Arthur Smith, they're not going to. I mean, the Steelers just don't fire coordinators under contract. And look, the guy's getting head coach interviews. Like, that's just not going to happen. This is a good shot by Anthony Daniels. They definitely missed Darnell Washington in this game, big time.
They went think jumbo one time, and that was early with Spencer Anderson.
They did bring him in a couple more times than that, but it wasn't the full 7 offensive line bodies. They just don't have another Darnell Washington, and that was definitely an underrated part of what happened here.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, he wasn't going to be back this postseason, so we'll have to see him beginning of, I guess, he should be back for OTAs, I assume. And then he'll have the mini camps and training camps. So that's the good news there, is that his injury is pretty, it wasn't major. So, folks, we are approaching our final horn. So we'll definitely, since this is the last one, we'll definitely take a look at a few ones. Appreciate you guys all for tuning in.
This is a good draft one. We want to turn the look forward. I don't have a good answer to this question. I'm still going to say quarterback because I don't know what else it would be. Wide receiver probably would be the plan B. But I don't see a better way for them to make this team better than to draft a quarterback. I don't think Ty Simpson is like a perfect prospect, but he's the one guy that they could maybe get that makes sense, that sort of lets them continue to execute what has looked like their plan. I like this one too. It's the only person left to help the Steelers is Jesus. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Steelers are in a hopeless position going forward by any stretch. I don't think they need to pray, but I do think they are in a situation that I don't see an easy way out of. And that's probably the first time you could say that with this group. It seemed like every year there had been a vision and a plan that was easily executable. It won't be easy this offseason. Not saying it's impossible, but I don't see an easy path forward for them to get to where they need to go. I offer my sincerest condolences to Tomlin on the loss. Tell him what an incredible season. I decided not to do that. I think you all will thank me for that.
We do see a shout out about one quarterback that Donald is recommending, trade from Leak Willis. Well, hey, Donald, he is a free agent. So
I would say of the non-Rodgers, sort of signing a vet options, that's by far the most attractive. But he is also far from a complete sure thing. It's still a very risky proposition. I like that idea, though. If they can pull that off and go draft a wide receiver, I think that would check a lot of boxes for me. But again, we're sitting here on January 13th, and we've come up with a grand total of 2 names plus 42/3-year-old Aaron Rodgers that are plausible. You're fishing in an empty pond. It's not a good way to go about landing your limit.
I will say I take exception to this trade for JJ McCarthy. I'm going to go on record and say, hell no.
Do not do that. All right. Well, it looks like we got to let Job go be Father of the Year. I got to go write a whole bunch of stories. I've left Brendan for too long. Who knows what he's doing? Job, thank you so much for joining me on all these. Really appreciate you jumping in on this. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you guys all for joining us. Even we've had so many night games, and we're on so late, and you guys all still show up at like 12, 1 in the morning. Really appreciate you all. We're not going anywhere. I mean, the post games, this will be the last one of these for quite some time. But morning rush, afternoon drive, we're going to keep Job around. I don't know if we're going to keep the night shift going in the off season. We'll talk about it, but we'll have some kind of content where he's involved, I assure you. And I got a trip to Mobile to book, so we never sleep here. So stay tuned. Thanks, really appreciate everyone for joining us in these all off season. And Job, you can close things out.
Absolutely. And hey, I might try to join that Mobile trip because I got my family down there. So we'll definitely go down there. Everyone, appreciate you joining us all season long. You guys been big support of the Steelers night shift, the afternoon drive, and the morning rush. It's been a lot of fun this season. I appreciate everyone's support and encouragement. And Stella appreciates all the kind words as well. She's got it in the middle of the night. She had to go see her dad. So, and I agree. She looks like me after the game, kind of hair everywhere. So, all right, guys. Well, everyone be sure to check in this week, and we'll have more information soon, and everyone have a good night.